Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 364. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. How does a travel nurse who served on the front lines during the pandemic create six-figure hands-free events and awe-inspiring experiences for her clients? We welcome event planning strategist and coach, Marsha Battee.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richards. I'm so excited to be here and had a good chat with you before getting on the call, and I can't wait to chat some more.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure. Well, first off, I consider myself a visionary. I look at big thinking and ideas, and I take those creative ideas and I like to put them into practice and implement them. I'm a creative person. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm a curious person, whether it's travel to 20 countries and territories, teaching, middle school, creating short films, to nursing, and now to event planning. So my journey has been a quite interesting one, from figuring out, in my 20s what I wanted to do, trying to figure it all out, to eventually falling into nursing, and now, really getting started with my own business and event planning and event strategy, helping visionary entrepreneurs launch six-figure hands-free events. So this is a brand new business in the past couple of months. I have a client already, and we're hosting a major event in 2024. I'm actually helping with another event for 2023. So just an exciting time for me in business. And I love this. I love this journey that I'm on.
Why event planning?
Yes. So I actually, before I went into nursing, so this was at my point of trying to figure it all out. I was living in California, living in LA at the time, got a job as a legal assistant at Loyola Law School, helping faculty there, and then came across this job at UCLA. Started applying to several jobs just to make more money because I wasn't making enough at the time. So started applying for jobs at UCLA. And one of the jobs I applied for was event planning for their medical school. And out of the 3 or 4 jobs that wanted to hire me, I decided to pick that one because of the perks. So I didn't really know at the time much about event planning. I just knew it was something that was interesting to me. Like I said, I'm a curious person and I like to learn. So I decided to go ahead and take that role. And some of the perks were, you get to stay at nice hotels, you get to travel with the events. So I just really enjoyed the thought of doing those things. And yeah, so I stayed at UCLA for a short period of time, planning their large scale events for their medical school, and also smaller scale events too, anywhere from meetings of 8 to 10 people to almost, over 1,000 people for their events. So it was a really great experience. And I was really, really good at it. I really, really enjoyed it, communicating with speakers, getting, scouting locations, negotiating contracts with food and beverage and venues and things like that. So it was a really interesting job. I learned a lot. And then I got introduced to nursing from a really good friend who was living in DC at the time. And she said, "Hey, you've always wanted to go back into medicine," which is a long story that for another time. But yeah, she said, "Hey, Georgetown has a program that if you already have a bachelor's degree, hey, you can get a nursing degree." And so I applied and got in and sort of left the event planning behind. But that's actually how I got started. And then as a entrepreneur myself, I started coaching nurses in self-care, lifestyle design, travel. I started blogging about career and nursing, and I started coaching nurses. And along that path, I started hosting my own events. So virtual events, mostly workshops, webinars, things like that. And then I hosted a 3-day event, a live 3-day event by myself, had speakers, did that for myself. And then I hosted a nine other nurses for a virtual event, and just really enjoyed the process, hosting 2-day events, 3-day events, and then, got approached by a nurse colleague during the pandemic who had seen what I had done in the past with nurse coaching and things. And so she told me about her idea about hosting a conference for Black nurses. And I was on board immediately. And that's sort of where the idea came to fruition last year, 2022. We hosted a 3-day live event for Black nurses. And after that event, I said, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is something that I really enjoy. I'm really, really good at it. And event planning, a couple of months later, I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch my business because I've been trying to find a way to sort of move out of the stress and overwhelm of nursing and burnout. And this is where I found my calling.
When you talk about event planning and we look at what happened with the pandemic, are you doing virtual events and in person? How is that working?
So right now, my focus is live event planning. There's something about being in the room with other people. And I know sometimes that may seem like a risk to only go with live event planning in the moment, because I have hosted all my, virtual events before. I've hosted workshops, webinars, a 2-day live event, virtual event. So I like the experience of live events. Now with the pandemic, I'm sure lots of event planners, and I came sort of on the tail end of us moving sort of out of the pandemic of starting my business. But I know a lot of event planners that probably, saw some drastic changes in their businesses in live events. And so they had to move to a virtual space. And there are event planners that I've seen, just in doing my research of starting my own business, that they actually did make the shift to a lot of online, venues and online spaces where they can attract their clients and customers that way. So it's a very good market to be into. People are still now doing virtual events, but I feel the need now that people are ready to get back into living in person and getting that experience of being around people. So that's where my focus is at the moment. Who's to say that I won't do virtual events later on down the line, because I've done them before. But at the moment, I feel a calling to really bring people together in a community, to build relationships. There's a magic to people being together in person. And I love that experience.
Fill in the blank. Thank you, pandemic, because.
Thank you, pandemic, because it has taught not only me, but others a lot about ourselves in terms of having to really cope with being in our own space and being alone and learning more about who we are as people, individually and, in your families. So I thank the pandemic for that, opening my eyes to the opportunities of learning more about myself. And I think it was really a journey that I needed for myself to figure out, hey, what is it that I really do like? I have all of this time and space to sort of figure it out. And I think the pandemic, that's one positive thing that came out of the pandemic, and really just discovering new ideas, being more creative about what we could do moving forward and what I could do moving forward.
Talk about being a hybrid entrepreneur. You're working as a travel nurse and you're an entrepreneur.
Yes. So I've always known that I don't want to say always known. I've always known that there was something different about me. Not that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, because I didn't really know what the different was about me. Even when I was a younger person, teenager, even younger than that, I just remember always thinking like, I don't want to go work in an office job. I don't want to go to a place every single day for 30 years, 40 years. I think I'd be bored. And, that's the way I think, right now. So going into nursing, I quickly achieved burnout. So I quickly achieved burnout because I was always one of those nurses, and still am, who wants to do everything I can for my patient. So I always worked myself to death, worked myself in burnout, and just knew that I wouldn't be there for long. And so I was constantly on this 7 to 7 work journey, going to work, coming back home, going to work, coming back home, and knowing that there was something else I wanted to do, something else that was out there that made a better fit besides me being locked inside a unit on a hospital for the majority of my life. And that's not what I wanted. And so when I came across the opportunity of entrepreneurship by actually shadowing a fellow nursing colleague and friend, he started a business right outside of nursing school. And I said, hey, can I, just hang out with you and see what you're doing, with this whole business thing that you're starting. And that's where I sort of got the idea of like, oh my goodness, this is what I need. You have the freedom to sort of do what you want in business. And so that's what attracted me to entrepreneurship and the idea of, I won't be, bedside nursing or staff nursing for long. It's a journey for me. I'm still in nursing right now. My current contract is ending and I can't wait to really have that in. And so I can really focus and go hard really on my business and really grow my business. So where I won't have to go back to the bedside, because I can be honest, I'm one of those who, it's really wonderful to say I'm a nurse because people always, praise you for the work that you do. It feels good when people, give you the accolades of being a nurse and they respect you a lot more. And despite that, I still feel this calling to do something else. And for the longest time, I kind of struggled with the need to want to do something else because I was like, no, I'm a nurse. I'm always a nurse. Everybody likes nurses. This is a feel-good job. You're supposed to, you're doing good for other people. But I had to come to the realization to say, really, I don't like the bedside. So it's just being that honest. I don't like the bedside. And I was just discussing this with you before we came on that, within nursing, I'm in management now. I'm, a department manager right now. And that's the nursing that I can do. At the bedside, I just felt this constant pull of task. You're constantly doing tasks, and you can never finish them. And you just don't have a moment to actually sit down and talk with the patient. And so that's what I didn't really like about bedside nursing. And I still don't like that part of bedside nursing where you're just constantly busy and just don't get a, break to just think or help a patient or talk to a patient. So yeah, and my creative brain doesn't like that. So my creative brain wants to do creative things. I have all these big visions of where I want to go in business and in life. And I just felt like living on a unit was not the right thing for me. So entrepreneurship is something that has really drawn me in. And I really love the idea of doing things the way I want to do it and living my way. And that's the journey that I'm on right now, making that transition from full-time nurse, because I'm still working full-time. And like I said, my contract does end pretty soon. And then making that transition to go full-time entrepreneurship.
I want you to have a monologue. I want you to name this person, living or not. And this person has inspired you so much. Name the person and what are you saying to that person?
So this is a hard question for me. I think that person is actually an amalgam of a lot of people who live life out loud and are not afraid to do it. I think of people just on the top of my head right now. I'm thinking of people like the Oprahs of the world, Lovey Ajayi Jones. I just love how they can just state their opinions and people trust their work and trust who they are and trust who they are. And so I think of people like that when I think of this, person of who I could be speaking to. And I guess if I were to have a monologue, I would say, keep going on your path, continue searching and seeking out for that which makes you happy. And there's nothing wrong with being a little different from everybody else. There's nothing wrong with not wanting the typical journey that you see everybody else is on. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind every year. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind every day. There's nothing wrong with the journey that you're on. So keep going is what I would tell myself or have a conversation with myself. And that's what that's what I try to do on a daily basis. I get a little nervous about, just all the ideas I have and where I want to go in life. I get a little bit nervous about that because it's not the typical route that people usually go on. And so I have to constantly remind myself, you're okay. You're in a good place and you're in a place, you're exactly where you should be going. So that's sort of the monologue I would have.
What is something that you wish you knew before starting your business that you didn't know?
Yeah, something that I wish I knew is that you can ask for help from other people. In the business that I've had, like in the coaching space, it's typical to have people helping you in business, like hiring coaches to help you, navigate the challenges of, getting started up and, navigating sales and navigating mindset, navigating money matters. So getting help is okay. And I wish I knew that a lot earlier, because I started my coaching career in nursing, coaching nurses. I started that several years ago. I want to say about 8 or 9 years ago, 2014. I can't think of the date right now, but I started doing that and I thought I could do it by myself. I do a lot of things by myself. I'm really good and talented at finding a lot of ways to do things. I'm really an easy person when it comes to technology. I can figure it out. I can figure out software programs easily, no problem. And so I decided to do it all on my own. And I feel like I would tell myself, again, if I was starting over, get help in the very beginning, start seeking out support in the very beginning. And that's something I tell people now, like, you need a coach. You need a coach, you need some help, you need someone who's going to guide you. You need to listen to podcasts of people who are doing the same things that you are doing. Get on people's email lists, although I don't do that now, but get on people's email lists, look at how they're doing things in your same space. Go to conferences, go to events. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who are at a higher level. I email people every day who are making millions of dollars, and don't have a problem doing it because I know they're just people just like me. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Raising capital. Talk about raising capital to start your business.
So that's something I don't do, actually. In this type of business, in the coaching space and event planning space, I purposely don't look to raise capital because I feel it's a space where I don't need to raise capital. In my opinion and in my feelings, I like working in business and owning my own business. I personally don't want to give away portions of my business and give away certain control of my business, because when you sometimes get capital, you have to do that unless people, grant you money through different grant programs. So I personally have not sought out venture capital or will seek out venture capital. Actually, it's interesting that we're talking about this because several years ago, I was starting this healthcare focused app, and it was dealing with sexual assault, domestic violence. So I got accepted into this accelerator program. It was like a 3-month program to help healthcare entrepreneurs launch businesses. And so that whole program was focused so much on venture capital. Like, they would give you at the end of the program, may give you a certain amount of funding if they take a percentage of the business. And I saw the way venture capitalists work behind the scenes and in our sessions, and I just did not like it. I didn't like the idea of, it's probably a result of the environment I was in and maybe the venture capitalists that were surrounding us in that program. But I just felt like it was all about money and what kind of in return on this investment can you give us as venture capitalists. So I was immediately turned off from doing venture capital or going that route at that point. So that's a route that I just don't plan to do in the future. I don't think I will plan to ever do it in the future. Who knows? If someone wants to come and buy my business for multiple millions of dollars, who knows? We'll see.
Who are your top 2 influencers or mentors, and what lessons did they teach you?
Yes. So right now, and I know this is pretty cliche to say her name, Oprah. I do admire Oprah and where she came from, because I came from a background of being, not having money. We grew up pretty poor, and just seeing where she came from and what all she's accomplished, and knowing that it's possible for anybody, any person like us, to achieve a certain status, achieve a certain happiness in their life, and achieve a certain way that they want to live without no regrets, without no excuses. So I do look up to her, and I do look up to Michelle Obama as well. Michelle Obama there's something about a person, a woman, who can have it be that everyone really loves her, no matter her politics. You do have those people who are really just hateful and, spiteful and just won't like her because who she is and the color of her skin. But with Michelle Obama, there's just a certain grace about her, a certain ease about her. And reading her first book, Becoming, I so appreciated her story and how reading, her first book, how little Black girls could look up to what's possible in your life if you just follow your heart and your dream and your desire. And so I admire those two women because of their humble beginnings, and their background is just so similar to a lot of our stories. And I look up to them and know that by looking up to them, anything is possible for me and my journey as well.
Talk about becoming Marsha Battee. How did you become?
Ooh, that's I became Marsha Battee through a lot of hard work, and I'm still doing the work. I'm still learning more about myself every day. I'm now learning within the past several months, and I've had this conversation before with a few people in the past couple of months, that I really feel comfortable in my talents and abilities at this very moment. For the longest time, I had been looking for what is the right thing? What is it that I'm meant to do? What is my purpose? What am I going to enjoy for the rest of my life? And it's as simple as I fell into event planning, fell into it years later, a few months ago again, and just really said to myself for the first time ever, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm meant to do. This is something that I actually love doing. And so I'm just becoming into that person that I always wish I could be. And again, like I said, there's a lot more work to do. And I know I'm on a journey to becoming a better version of myself. But yeah, I am becoming Marsha, and I'm just loving it right now.
Marsha, what is your zone of genius?
Yes. So my zone of genius is behind the scenes work of event planning, or behind the scenes work of anything. I'm really good in operations, management of operations. I'm really good at looking at the big picture and making a list of detailed accomplishments to go with that big picture. I'm really good at making lists and knowing what needs to happen and strategy. So event planning is something that really fits because all of the talents that I have is good for event planning. I don't want to say event planning is my zone of genius. It's just the background work of event planning that makes it my zone of genius. So organization, the nitty-gritty details. I love the behind the scenes of getting things up and running. I don't need to be in front. I love being behind the scenes, and I love supporting people being in the front and tapping into their zone of genius and helping them reach other people through their zone of genius in event planning.
Who is your ideal client?
Yes. So my ideal client is generally a woman. I can work with men too who are in the event planning space. It's usually you find a lot of women who are doing it. So my ideal client, 30 to 50s in their own businesses. Most of them the majority of them would be in their online space, either coaching, agency owners, people who are providing a service to others who have their own audience and have a message or education that they need to provide for their audience. So anybody who wants to be on stage and teaching other people, anybody who wants to impact, masses of people, thousands of people, millions of people with a message, and that they want to actually have their people or their clients or the people in front of them get results, get outcomes. That is my ideal client. People in that visionary space, people who are visionary entrepreneurs, who are creative entrepreneurs, who want to teach others and tell others about their talents and helping them discover their talents as well, their clients' talents as well.
What problem exists in the world today that you'd like to solve?
Yes, lots of problems exist in the world today, of course. I have to say, if I think about myself growing up, I would have to say just bullying, being, people not being kind to each other, because I think that makes all the difference in all the problems that we have in the world, people not being kind to one another. So bullying is something that I really went through in middle school and high school, or experience, I should say, in middle school and high school. And I think just trying to understand what a person's background is, whether they're a child or an adult, just understanding a person's background can make a difference in not only that person's life, but in general. I think it would make the world a better place if we could just be more kind to one another.
What do you need that you don't have right now to move the needle forward for your business?
Time. So right now I run 2 businesses and I work full time. So time has been the biggest factor, and a lot of that will be alleviated. We're recording this in February 2023 for the listeners, and March of 2023, my contract does end. My full-time job contract does end, and I've been asked to stay on for another 6 months, and I'm trying not to do that because every time I stay on, every time I extend a contract, it puts me more behind in my business. So the goal is to say no and, let that contract come to a conclusion and then focus on my businesses full out, just like I would any job. So time is the biggest factor. I'm split between 3 different things right now, and I can't wait to let one major thing go, because one major thing takes up 40 hours of a week. So that'll be great when it happens.
And the other business you're doing besides the event planning is coaching the nurses?
No. So I stopped that. That was a challenge for me in terms of where I would have to find clients and getting clients in the space, in the social media space. So my other business, I'm actually partnered with my business partners. So we met during the pandemic. We're nurses, travel nurses. So we met during the pandemic, and she came to me with an idea that she had from a traumatic experience that she had in nursing several years back. And so she's had this idea of bringing together Black nurses. And so that business is Black Nursing Excellence, or we host Black Nurses Week every week. It's an event, a 3-day event. Our first one we just hosted this past year. And that's when I got back into event planning. I said, oh, I really love doing this. And so this year we're planning 2023 in July. We have the second annual Black Nurses Week. So that's my second business with my business partner. So yeah.
Is it annually or monthly?
Yes,
annually.
It's annually. So this is, we just had our very first Black Nurses Week this past year, 2022, July 2022. And going through all the event planning right now for 2023. We are looking at 14 speakers this year. We had 12 this past year. 3 days of education. This year's theme is just a continuation of last year's theme. We had, our theme was opportunities beyond the bedside. So it's particularly looking at entrepreneurship for nurses, things that they can do outside of the bedside. So we have several different nurses from several different opportunities who's going to come and speak to our audience on things like opening a med spa business, building a real estate portfolio, opening a cannabis, specialty, opening your own medical practice. It's not all medical focused, but with the nursing background, just looking at things that you can do if you're in burnout and if you're a nurse, things you can do outside of nursing. So it's going to be an exciting event. I'm excited about it.
And if someone's interested, how do they connect?
Yes. So 2 ways. If you're interested in planning any events for yourself, your own 6-figure events where you can potentially profit off your event, if you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to me via my website, eventsecretsblueprint.com. Or if you are a nurse and you're interested in attending Black Nurses Week, you just go to blacknursesweek.com. So event planning or Black Nurses Week, 2 opportunities for you to reach out.
What is the biggest takeaway, Marsha, that you want our audience to take from this conversation today?
Yes, I say this with everybody. And I used to say this to my client as I, coach them in career, lifestyle design, travel when I was a nurse, is you always want to start before you're ready. You can't wait for everything to line up and be, on point. You start before you're ready. And my analogy is to this. I used to do a lot of blog posts back in the day on my website talking about nursing career and travel. I would write a blog post and I would hit publish when it was 80% done. And then I would email my list saying, hey, go read my latest blog post, knowing in my head it was only 80% done. I need to go edit. I need to go bold some statements and things like that. And I did that on purpose. I started before I was ready because I felt like if I continuously waited for my blog post to be perfect, I would never hit publish on it. And I think that's the same thing that we have to do. If you're listening to this, Dr. Richard's episodes and you're interested in starting a business and you haven't, or if you're already in business, I encourage you to start any project before you're ready. Just go ahead and hit publish. Done is better than perfect. And you know the saying, done is better than perfect. So start before you're ready, because I think that's going to help move you forward. Once you know it's out there and people know about it, then it's going to give you that motivation to go ahead and get it finished and as perfect as possible.
If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Yes. So if I conducted this interview, there's a lot of questions. I would have asked, what about my background made me know that I was different from just the everyday employee who goes to work for a 9 to 5. And I think when I think of that, I guess I'll say it like this. I would say, for anybody who meets a person who feels a bit different, always nurture their talents. And I feel like when I was younger, I didn't have that opportunity to have my talents nurtured because just the background that we grew up in, we didn't, I grew up in the middle of the country and didn't have that many opportunities for me when I was growing up, when I was younger. I would just say that I wish I had, I guess, better opportunities and nurturing environment for my creative side and my creative ideas, if that makes sense.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round, or Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Okay. Are you ready for the rapid round of fun?
Yes.
What is your comfort food?
Crawfish.
The last movie you saw?
Jeffrey Dahmer series.
You relax doing what?
Watching Law and Order SVU, sorry.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Lionel Richie, Whitney Houston. It's a toss-up.
Your favorite dance song?
I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Noodles.
Your
Just
ideal
plain noodles and butter.
Your ideal car?
Volvo, the S90, I think it's called. I like the style of it.
Work out or hit the couch?
Hit the couch.
Marsha Battee, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and do business with you. And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Sure. So the best way to do business with me, if you're interested in planning events, you can again find me at eventsecretsblueprint.com, or you can find me on Instagram. And that's where I'll be doing a business type post about planning 6-figure live events. And my handle on Instagram is at Marsha Battee, and that's Battee, and spell the right way, Marsha, Marsha.
Thank you, Marsha. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.